Hi, my name's Margaret. Welcome to Card Readings. I'm going to talk to you about my journal as a psychic and someone who has dyslexia. Tell me what you think about the story. I'm thinking of doing something with it. So yeah. So when I was little, way before I was born, my mum knew something was wrong with me. The doctor picked it up. He said, I will have a disability, but we didn't know what it would be at that time. So when I was born, I did have a disability. I couldn't talk till I was 9, and it was classed as dyslexia. I remember through the years up till I was 9, I had tests done and things like, how good is my learning skills there were. My IQ and all that was, and all that kind of stuff was good, just my reading and writing. Like, I can't remember what level I was when I was younger, but now I'm a level 2 writer, the level 3 reader, and that's kind of like grade 2 writing, grade 3 reading, something like that, anyway. So when I was young, that was, and so my mum would treat me less normal. If I did something wrong, I'll get in trouble, I'll be grounded, kind of stuff. I remember when she said to me, I would be very stubborn, like I'd throw tantrums, be on the ground, kicking legs to get what I want. And Mum would just stand there, do what she had to do, and she just let me go. And she thought, yeah, I'll get over it, and I didn't get over it. So that's okay. And things like kids would pick on me when I was younger because my reading and writing, I couldn't talk, but I would always fight back. I'm very stubborn. Yeah, and yeah, stuff like that. So, and I wanted to be an individual person when I was younger. I still do want to be an individual person now. So, but that's not all. When I was about 2 to 4 years old, I remember I was in a house in Preston, in Victoria, and I was in a room in a cot, and it was night time, and I was looking at a door, right? And I remember seeing a lady with curly brown hair, and she looked like she had like a dentist uniform on. And I remember seeing this, and with the lady there, she had kind of like a girl light around her. It sounds weird, but a girl light around her. And I remember seeing stuff like that. Like, I remember seeing a little boy when I was younger, and I remember seeing a little girl. To this day, I don't know much about this girl. I only know her name was Strong, and that's it. So I remember seeing stuff like that, and I remember having dreams that came true. Like, I remember when I was younger, New South Wales, Sydney, had a major train crash, and that came true. So I always remember having things like that, but I couldn't tell my mum these things because I couldn't talk, right? So that was alright. That went through till I was 9, and I had tests done related to my dyslexia, and what we gathered, then I would be a slow learner when it came to reading and writing, but everything else like maths, just genuine learning stuff, I was okay with it. I'm really good with computers, I've been told, and yeah, it was just my reading, writing, and my speech. As you can hear, I don't have a good speech. My speech's not real. But my IQ was normal. My learning skills were normal. Stuff like that was just normal. I would hear properly. If someone says something to me, I would understand what they're saying. But so that was it with that. So that was alright till I was 9. Then I remember things when I was 9, I started to talk, and it was silly things I would talk about, like Morgan Mindy, stuff like that. But I would talk about certain other things, like I was saying to my mum when I was a bit older about this lady I saw at the door, and my mum would look it up, and she got told that place that we stayed at was a hospital. So yeah, and so I think that's where that started to go into. My mum said I was psychic. I would pick up things, and we'd talk about it a little bit, but I didn't really talk to her about it at all much, because I don't know. I just thought it was normal. I would think people hear things, people read people's minds. I thought that was normal, and I didn't think anything of it. So that's okay. And when I was in high school, I used to get picked on a bit, just because of my speech or my writing. And I would always fight back, like I said, and I would stand for my beliefs and all that. And I remember one year I was at lunch with my friends, and someone said, two of these kids said to me, had the kids sitting on a couch, I think it was, at this high school, and two of them said to me, don't go near her, you might catch it, kind of thing. And I would say to them, well, you probably want to leave, because I'm touching this floor right now, and the floor's touching the ground, the couch, and the couch is touching you, so you're probably going to catch it. So I think you might want to leave, right? So they just look at me, and ever since then, people want to pick on me. I must have said it in a certain way too, because the other thing I do, I will always stand up for other people. I remember one year, in New South Wales, before we went to high school, where someone was picking on this guy because he was an Aboriginal person, and they're talking about the colour of his skin. And for some reason I turned to the guys and, you know what, he's not really black. If you look at him, he's brown. Like, he's not really black, he's brown. And people would look at me really like that, because, and I wouldn't, because for me, everyone's the same. Ever since whenever, I will always think everyone's the same. I don't treat anyone different. Yeah, so that's okay too. So that's all. It went up to about when I was 16. I was friends with other people. People would pick on me, and I'd fight back on them. Like someone used to say to me, "You have an answer for everything," kind of thing. That's what they used to say to me. So yeah, so that's okay. And in high school, I remember one day, I remember saying to a friend of mine, I had a dream that I was going to move in with someone, a friend of mine that I haven't met yet. And I remember it wasn't a bad thing, but my mum, when I went home that day, Mum said, you really need to be careful what you say, because she knew my dreams would come true. And I just looked at her and went, what's wrong? I just got dyslexia. What's wrong with me talking about it? That's what I thought she was talking about, my dyslexia. And that's okay. We left that, that's fine. And I was just talk about things, but it was just went on. And I remember going to one of my first job. It's in disabilities. No, sorry, before that I went to a Salvation childcare place, and I remember saying to him, I always say this to people, especially when it comes to reading writing, I tell them about my dyslexia, because I work in places that you have to be careful with how you read, if you have to read things, so you have to really be careful, get the right information. So that's okay. So I told them about it, and they were okay with it. I was doing volunteer work. And I remember one year we had kids around. Well, childcare, you do have kids around. And the staff member said, why don't you read a book? Okay. So I read a book, and they was quite amazed by it, or I don't know why. So that's okay. So I went to a paid job, and it was Filmery. These days, Filmery Catholic home. And like I said, I tell people about my first time I went there as a volunteer. I didn't say anything, just to see what happens. And they knew I had dyslexia straight away. Just knew, and that's okay. I mean, I'm okay with it. And so every time I go see a staff member, I tell them that. So I thought it's important to tell them that. Like I said, there's a lot of reading and writing involved with personal care stuff and all that. So that's all right. And like I said, I told everyone about it. And one day I came across a staff member. Let's call her Jo, because I don't know if she wants everyone to know this story. So I come across this lady called Jo, and I told her about it. And most people, for some of them, see me as someone who has dyslexia. They'll say, "You poor thing," you know, whatever. And I think, you'll learn later. It's not that major, and it wasn't a big deal. So that's okay. So I meet this lady called Jo, and Jo said, instead of saying, "Oh, you poor thing," whatever, she goes to me, "What can I do for you?" And that kind of shocked me a bit, because, like I said, it's quite a different perspective from it. And I said to her, nothing right now, things. I just what you want to know in case something goes wrong, kind of thing. So that's all right. But I'll say a month or two later, Jo came to me and she introduced me this thing called Dragon. It's a program for your computer. If you have good verbal, if you can talk verbally good, like articulate and everything good, it's really good, okay? And it reads back to you stuff. So if you say things, it will type for you and it reads back to you. So Jo introduced me to this. And I thought, well, this is really good. I can read people's IPPs, I can do incident reports, all that kind of stuff. So that was really good, to a point where what we realised, me and Jo realised, it's good to read to me, but because my how I sound things out, it's not the right way. Because what they do at the start of Dragon, they've got a little story that you have to read, yeah? And with this story, you have to say it right. If you don't say it right, they'll run past you with it. And so I can do this, could I? So that then Pastor Jo did it for me. So what happened, I couldn't say things to this program to type up for me, but it would read things to me, because Jo was a pretty good reader, right? And she can articulate really well. So that's okay. So that's one part we learned. But through this, I got introduced to a young guy. He had a disability. Let's call him George, because it's privacy here. We call him George, and he had this thing. It's kind of, I won't call it, you won't know what I mean. But this problem that you can type in and it reads back to you. Well, that's interesting. And that's how, if you haven't heard of it, I think that's how they started this thing called Night Rider for people with disabilities. It's a whole new story, but it's an interesting one. So that's okay. So and at this time, people realised I was psychic. I did not know I was psychic. This was in 2000 and I think 2 or 2003 that Jo came in. We had another staff member for her, another boss, and let's call her Mary. And I would talk to her about my dreams, like September 11th, her having a baby, so one of the clients was going to have an accident, stuff like that, yeah. So she knew I was psychic. I didn't know I was psychic, and they introduced me to another lady called, I would call her Margaret. And Margaret said, "You might be psychic." And I thought, I don't know about that, but let's go with that. Let's say this, I'm psychic. I didn't know anything about it. So this went on for a while. But right through it all, I learned other things on this phone. I think it's called IC, and you can download this on your phone, and it reads everything to you. Your phone can type for you. It will read to you. Like I just got a few weeks ago, I went to change my provider from Vodafone to Tetra, and then I asked them, because I knew it was there, but I didn't know how to do it. How can I get this thing on your phone that can read your emails and that? So they did that for me. So I got all that. So that's really good. So that's all fine. So that's kind of worked really well, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm actually thinking of writing a book for that same reason. So throughout this, like I said, I did not know I was psychic till I was about, I would say, 34. Two us out watching Medium. Now, Medium, as you all know, probably know, it's based on a true story about 5 psychics, mainly a lady called Alison DeVille, who she's psychic, and let's go through her. But like I said, there's another 4 psychic people related to this show. And I'm watching it, and this is the first bit where she has dreams that came true, like how she met the guy at the end of the show in jail, and that's what she did in her dream. She's writing a letter F, looking for a young girl, and the lady said the town that's letter F. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Or she can read a person's mind, that kind of stuff. Yeah, very much me. And I thought, this is interesting, yeah. So that's okay. And then that's pretty much how it all started for me. I can go into it more, but I thought I'd just share this with you. And what happened at where it started now, where I learnt more about the psychic stuff about me. By that time, I knew heaps of stuff what I can use for me as someone has dyslexia. People out there say you should be on disability pension, but I don't see it. I'm quite capable on my own. I live on my own. I work on my own. I used to work in disabilities. Sometimes that can be quite a full-on job because that's how it is. Yes, I knew I was quite okay with it, but the psychic stuff, it took a little bit longer. So like I said to other people, I just didn't listen to my mum and dad. So, but when I learnt it, things came out of it too. So I'm very artistic. I love my art. Anything related to art, I love. I'm learning to do returning right now. I'm quite excited about it, and yeah, so stuff like that. But through all this, I kind of learnt what I wanted to help with missing people. That's my psychic side of it. Run my own business, do reading for private readings, incorporate my art with it, do some classes, probably not psychic classes, because I believe there's psychics who know what they're doing but can't teach it because it's just naturally in them, and that's me. And then you've got other psychics who've been taught to be psychics, and they're probably more likely to be easier to teach someone to be psychic. So, and that's not me. Never got taught. I got taught to do tarot cards and downers, but your everyday things like clairaudience, clairsensitive, yeah, that kind of stuff. Nah. Seeing spirits, I haven't been taught to see spirits. When I pick up on things, it just comes naturally. Like I said to someone, if I push it, it won't happen actually. I just have to let it naturally happen. So yeah, that's pretty much my story. What do you think? Yeah, just tell me what you think. You like it, don't like it, just opinion. This is something I want to share with you, and it's not like other stories, you know, oh, you poor thing. It's not that kind of thing. Quite grounded. If you mess with me, you just have to watch the first one, October 19. You know, I don't muck around. You harm someone or harm me, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm not a real you poor thing, and as you can tell with the whole me being psychic and me having dyslexia, I don't feel like it's a negative thing. They go hand in hand. I feel like the negative stuff related to me having dyslexia kind of balance it out with me being psychic. It kind of goes hands out. It's balance each other's out, you know. yeah, so yeah, that's the end of this story about me, my journal of me, of my life. I can tell you more, like I have I mean, 7 sisters and brothers, and my parents' background, but I'm sure you don't want to know about that. So tell me what you think. Bye. See you later.